Okay, so you want to get right to the point, right? Like you don't have time to sift through tons of articles and books.
Yeah, we get it.
You want that information, but you don't want to spend a week doing it.
Right.
And that's exactly what we do here. We do those deep dives for you so we can pull out the most important parts, the interesting parts,
The really good stuff.
the good stuff, and present it to you in a really clear way.
A really clear and hopefully fun way.
So today, we are tackling a powerful and fundamental topic, and that is the principles of discipline and freedom, as explored in Jocko Willink's book, Discipline Equals Freedom. And this is a work that's dedicated to the memory of Fallen SEAL Team 3 members Mark Lee, Mike Monsoor, and Ryan Jobe.
Real heroes who knew what sacrifice for freedom meant.
So our mission for you today is to really understand the core ideas around self-discipline. Where does this drive even come from? How do you build it in your life? And maybe even more surprising, how can something that sounds so restrictive actually be the very foundation of like genuine personal freedom?
Yeah, I think that last one is really something that most people don't expect when they think about discipline.
Exact.
It's so often thought of as this negative, limiting thing.
Yeah.
And this book argues very, very much against that.
Yeah. And so right off the bat, if you're looking for a quick fix, some secret shortcut to self-improvement, forget about it.
Yeah, this book is not for you if you're looking for the easy way.
Yeah. The central message, and the author returns to this again and again, is this.
Let's hear it.
There is no easy way. There is only hard work, late nights, early mornings, practice, rehearsal, repetition, study, sweat, blood, toil, frustration, and discipline.
Discipline.
No sugarcoating there.
Yeah, I think that's what makes this book so powerful. It's just so direct.
Exactly. So what is discipline? How does the book even define discipline?
Well, what's so key here is that it defines discipline as something much more than just following rules, right?
Right.
Like, it's not about just doing what you're told. It's presented as this really foundational thing, the root of all good qualities, the driver of daily execution, the core principle that overcomes laziness and lethargy and excuses. So, think about it as that engine that pushes you to do those things that you know you need to do. That voice in the back of your head saying, skip it today, do it tomorrow. Discipline is that muscle that lets you say, no, I'm doing it today.
Yeah. It's like that argument we all have in our head when we know we should be doing something, whether it's working out or getting to work on a project we've been putting off.
Yeah.
That little voice that's like, maybe I'll just watch one more episode.
Right.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'm tired today. Discipline in this framework is like winning that argument. So why even put yourself through that? Why cultivate discipline when it can be uncomfortable? What's the point?
I think that's the best part of the book, is it answers that. The book, it initially draws on the author's experiences in preparing for potential combat, right? Like as a Navy SEAL. He understood very clearly that his adversaries were also training, preparing, and his level of discipline could literally be the difference between life and death.
So a very real, immediate motivator.
A huge motivator.
Like if you are not disciplined, you could die.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes from, right?
Right.
But then he takes it a step further, which is really interesting.
Yeah. The book moves beyond that, right?
It does.
It goes beyond that initial battlefield context to something more enduring.
Absolutely. And I think this is where it really gets powerful for people like us, right? Who aren't going into combat situations. He's talking about honoring the sacrifice made by those who fought for freedom. And he's talking about remembering Mark, Mikey, and Ryan specifically. It's about recognizing that their sacrifice demands we make the most of our own opportunities, that we try to be worthy of that gift.
So if discipline is this foundational force, where does it actually come from? Is it something you're born with?
The nature versus nurture debate.
Exactly. Or is it something you actively develop?
So the book makes a really strong point
Mm-hmm.
that true discipline is self-discipline, right?
Mhm.
It can't be forced on you from the outside.
Not really.
Yeah. Somebody can tell you what to do,
Yeah.
but it doesn't build the internal fortitude.
Doesn't make it stick.
Right. You can be compliant temporarily because a commanding officer tells you what to do, but he takes it a step further and says, you need to make that decision yourself. It comes from a decision you make to be better, to do more, and to push harder.
So the challenge the book lays out is if you don't see yourself as a disciplined person, it's not because you're not capable of it. It's simply because you haven't made that decision internally.
That's a really empowering concept, isn't it?
It is. It's a very direct challenge.
Yeah. It puts the responsibility on us.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about procrastination. We all know that feeling of having something important to do, but we find a million other things to do instead. What does the book say about that?
Well, the book takes on this question that I think everybody has had.
Mm,
Where do I begin, and when is the best time?
the best time to start.
Yeah. The right moment. And the answer, well, it's classic Jocko. It is here and now. There's no time to wait. Just start.
So no more putting it off, no more I'll get to it tomorrow.
Well, wait.
Just start now.
And this is where I think it gets really good because, people ask, well, what's the first step? Where do I start? And he says, doesn't matter. Just take the first step.
Take action.
It doesn't matter how small it is. Just take action.
And don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and research every little detail. Don't weigh all the options. Just take action.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made the decision. You're starting now. It's easy to get distracted by what other people are doing. We see it online.
Oh, it's everywhere, man.
Their achievements, their, perceived perfections. How does the book guide us in navigating that?
This is where the idea of kill your idols comes in.
Now, this isn't literal, right?
No, of course
Go
not.
out and commit.
It's a metaphor.
Don't hurt anyone.
Yeah. I think what he's talking about is this idea of putting people on these unattainable pedestals, right?
Yeah.
He reminds you that everyone, even these people you might idolize, they have flaws and weaknesses. And the thing is, we don't see them because we're not them.
Right. And we're focused outward rather than inward.
Exactly. But the key takeaway here is that you only have complete control over yourself, and that's where you should focus your energy on improving yourself.
Don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah. Stop trying to be a perfect copy of somebody else.
Focus on your own path.
Be the best version of yourself. Become stronger, wiser, more resilient. And I love this. This transformation happens one small decision at a time. It's that consistency that leads to change.
Now, mind control can sound a little strange, maybe even a little scary,
Mm-hmm.
but the book uses it in a very specific way, right?
Yeah. It's nothing to do with manipulating others.
Nothing to do with, weird mind tricks.
None of that stuff. It's about mastering yourself, your own thoughts, your own impulses, your own reactions. It's about taking control of the machine of your mind.
So how do you actually exert this control? How do you do this mind control?
It's more simple than you might think. He gives advice like be tougher, wake up early, work out consistently, stop eating sugar. They're not just suggestions, they're ways to kind of practice self-mastery, assert your will.
Show your mind who's boss.
Exactly. And even further, he talks about how we actually have more control over our emotional responses than we think, like heartbreak, disappointment. We don't have to be victims of our emotions.
We can choose how we respond.
Exactly. So feelings like weakness, laziness, sadness, frustration, he describes them as kind of like internal votes, right?
Internal votes.
And you have the power to override those votes. It's about establishing a firm command within your own mind, choosing to impose positive things like discipline, strength, optimism.
So it really is like a constant internal battle. It's a negotiation. And the book doesn't shy away from the fact that we all have weaknesses.
No, and I think that's what makes it so relatable. He's very open about his own weaknesses.
Oh, yeah. The chapter weakness is great. He talks about not being the strongest or fastest, struggling with diet. He even admits to dealing with procrastination and ego.
Which, we all deal with that.
We all do. It's human. But it's insightful that sometimes our greater strengths can also be weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
If we don't manage them.
Absolutely.
And then our weaknesses, if we work on them, can become strengths.
That's a huge takeaway. Like, our weaknesses are not permanent. They're just areas we need to focus on.
It's an ongoing effort, right? It's a daily effort to get better.
And it's not about being perfect.
And expect setbacks.
You're going to have setbacks, but it's about getting back up and continuing to try.
So life is full of stress. It's kind of unavoidable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
How does the book advise we deal with the stress? Like, what's the approach?
So I think, first he tries to shift our perspective a little bit. He wants us to consider the level of stress that, warriors throughout history have had to deal with. Imagine being in the middle of some of these horrific battles throughout history.
Right.
It kind of puts our daily stressors in perspective.
It does.
And then his main point is detach from the things that are outside your control.
Which is so hard to do.
Oh, it's super hard. But we waste so much energy on things that we can't control.
Absolutely. So detach from that and then focus on what you can control. If you're stressed because you're not disciplined, then get disciplined.
Right. Take ownership of that.
Take ownership. And then, with the stress that you can't control, embrace it. Try to use it to your advantage.
Become sharper, more effective, more resilient.
So turn stress into an ally. Now, destroyer mode sounds pretty intense. What is destroyer mode?
Destroyer mode is about pushing yourself beyond your limits. But the interesting thing is, he says it's a balance between emotion and logic.
Emotion and logic.
Yeah. Because both of those can kind of reach their breaking points, right?
Right.
So when logic says, stop, you can't do this anymore, then that's where you tap into emotion, into anger, into frustration, even into fear, to push yourself further.
But then sometimes our emotions get out of control.
Exactly. That's where the logic comes in. If you're completely overwhelmed emotionally, then you need to engage the logic and willpower to take back control, to make smart decisions.
So it's a balance, this idea of pushing past our limits. That seems closely tied to finishing what you start, right?
Absolutely. The chapter Until the End kind of compares it to combat training, right? Like
Yeah.
if you relax after you've taken an objective and the enemy is still out there, well, you could be in big trouble. So he talks about this mentality of it's never finished. There's always more work to
Usually
do.
always another goal.
Always improving, always pushing.
Right.
And that's because there's always some kind of enemy, whether it's a real enemy or a metaphorical enemy, that's waiting for you to let your guard down. So the idea is to stay vigilant, to be prepared to go to the very end, to finish the task completely.
And then assess, and then improve.
And then do it again.
Exactly. So we've talked a lot about the mindset, the principles of discipline, but how does this translate into everyday life? Like, how do we put this into action?
Well, the chapter on application of discipline gives some concrete examples. It's not just about waking up early, although that's in there.
Of course that's in there.
It's about working out regularly, making smart food choices, controlling your emotions in your ego, treating other people well, doing those things you don't want to do but that you need to do, and facing your fears.
So it's really about every aspect of our lives.
It's about a holistic approach to life.
And he's not saying discipline is a punishment, right?
No, discipline is a tool. It's the key to freedom. It leads to greater strength, better health, increased intelligence, even happiness.
And then, the book highlights the importance of knowledge, and it emphasizes a very direct way to get that knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Questions, right? That chapter is all about how knowledge is a tool, and the way to get that knowledge is by questioning. Question everything. Don't just accept information at face value.
Right. And the book talks about turning that questioning inward.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Self-reflection is so important.
Ask yourself the tough questions.
Who am I becoming? What did I learn today? What progress have I made towards my goals? Am I the person I want to be? Those honest, sometimes uncomfortable self-assessments, that's where growth comes from.
So it's not a passive journey, right?
No, it's a fight.
Fight, the chapter titled Fight, talks about this. You have to actively engage in this.
You have to fight for it. You have to be willing to put in the effort, to make the hard choices, to give your best even when you don't feel like it.
To resist weakness.
To face your fears.
To stand firm against the challenges that life throws at you.
And even when things seem impossible, keep fighting. Go down swinging. Because sometimes that's all you can do.
Now, in a world that so often requires compromise, we're constantly compromising with each other. How does the book address this?
He makes a distinction between external compromise, which is necessary for relationships, for teamwork, for anything involving other people, and the internal resolve that can't be compromised.
So what are those internal commitments that we can't compromise on?
These are things like hard work, training, continuous learning, owning your mistakes, facing challenges, perseverance, and at the very core, self-discipline itself. These are things you can never compromise on.
Never compromise. Now, default aggressive might sound a little strange. How's that term used?
So it's not about being outwardly aggressive or hostile.
Not about being mean.
It's about an internal drive to win, to succeed.
It's an attitude.
Think fast, act fast. Always be looking for ways to overcome challenges to achieve victory.
So we've all heard the debate, nature versus nurture, right?
Yeah. Are we a product of our genes or our environment?
Exactly. Where does this book land on that?
This book really emphasizes the power of choice. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your genes are. Success is about the choices you make. You choose to work hard. You choose to learn. You choose to lead. And you can choose to be successful.
And you can choose to start making those choices today.
Exactly. It's never too late.
So fear of failure, that can really hold people back, right?
It can be paralyzing.
Yeah, it can be debilitating. What does the book say about dealing with that?
This is interesting. He doesn't say eliminate the fear of failure. He says be afraid of failure. Use that fear as a motivator.
Right.
But be even more afraid of not trying, of staying stagnant, of not growing. So that fear can push you to work harder, to prepare better.
So there's healthy fear, and then there's, just being too afraid.
Right.
Now, the warpath, that sounds kind of intense. What does that represent?
The warpath is this idea of a constant journey of preparation, of discipline. It's a battle against your own weaknesses and against the external obstacles that you face in life. He argues that by staying on this path, you achieve strength, knowledge, control, ownership, and ultimately freedom.
And peace.
And peace, which I think is kind of unexpected, right?
It is. It's very counterintuitive. The book uses these really striking images and metaphors, and one of them is sugar-coated lies. What is sugar-coated lies?
Those are the things that tempt you, like, oh, have a donut, it'll be fine, you deserve it. But really, those things, they sabotage your goals in the long run.
It's instant gratification, right?
Right. It's poison disguised as something pleasurable.
It's that little devil on your shoulder saying, just one bite, it won't hurt.
He says you need to be aggressive in resisting those temptations. Use your willpower to say no.
So the book also talks about bad instincts, right?
Yes.
What's a bad instinct?
It's that little voice that says, you've done enough.
You're tired. Take a break.
Take it easy. You deserve a rest. But really, it's your ego trying to protect you from discomfort, from hard work.
So we should ignore those bad instincts.
Absolutely. Fight against them. Even when you don't feel motivated, keep going through the motions. Don't let those instincts win.
So everybody experiences regret at some point. How does the book say we should handle those feelings of regret?
Well, the book says that regret is inevitable, but dwelling on it without learning from it is pointless. It says we could use regret as information, as a guide for future actions, and then move on.
Don't get stuck in the past.
Exactly. Learn from your mistakes and then focus on making better choices in the present.
Focus, right. It's so hard to maintain focus these days.
Oh, it's everywhere. Distractions are everywhere.
What does the book say about focus?
So he says, in moments of crisis, we can focus, but it's hard to keep that level of focus on our long-term goals when we're not in a crisis.
Right.
So he says, keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Make sure that your actions align with your goals.
So always have your eye on the prize.
Exactly. Don't get lost in the day-to-day. He says, think about your goals, write about them, talk about them, and take action towards them every single day, even small actions.
So hesitation can be a real killer, right?
Yeah. That moment between thinking about doing something and actually doing it.
That's where dreams die.
He quotes Shakespeare, between the acting of a dreadful thing and the first motion, all the interim is like a phantasma or a hideous dream.
So hesitation is the enemy.
Absolutely. Because while you hesitate, opportunities are lost, your resolve weakens, and it can lead to inaction and defeat. So the advice is simple. Go. Move. Take action now.
Just do it. So bad things happen, right? Life isn't fair. How does the book advise we react to those situations? He has this idea of draw fire. What's that about?
Well, when bad things happen, it's easy to get negative to blame others. But he says, no, step up, be a leader. He uses the phrase draw fire as a metaphor for taking on the burden, shielding others from the negativity, and focusing on solutions.
Be the bigger person.
Wow. Exactly. Be positive, be proactive, and help others stay focused on moving forward.
So he has this one-word response to setbacks, and it's kind of unexpected. It's just the word good.
I know, right? It seems counterintuitive, but it's about shifting your mindset.
It's not about pretending that bad things aren't happening. It's about accepting reality, but then immediately focusing on what you can do about it.
Find the opportunity within the problem.
So when you say good, it means you're still in the game. You're still fighting.
Exactly. It's a sign of resilience.
And this applies to even the ultimate loss, the death of someone you love, which, seems impossible to find anything good in.
It is a very difficult thing to process. And the book doesn't diminish that pain. But he encourages you to remember the positive aspects of that person's life, the lessons they taught you, the impact they had, the good memories. And he says, live in a way that honors them. Embrace your own life and make the most of it.
So the chapter Every Day, what's that all about?
This chapter is about consistency. Discipline isn't a part-time thing.
It's not something you do on Mondays and then forget about the rest of the week.
Right. It's an everyday gig.
Every day is Monday.
Every day is Monday. You have to bring that same level of focus, that same aggression, that same perseverance to every single day, no matter what challenges you face.
So there's a short chapter titled No More, and it's very powerful. What's he saying no more to?
He's saying no more excuses.
No more procrastination.
No more rationalizations, no more weakness, no more indecision, no more lies.
No more giving in to the easy way out.
Now is the time for strength. It's time to step up and be who you're meant to be.
And we always talk about motivation, right?
Yeah. I need to get motivated.
I'm just not motivated. But the book kind of dismisses motivation.
Yeah. He says motivation is fickle. It comes and goes.
It's not reliable.
Discipline is the key. It's about making yourself do it even when you don't feel like it.
It's about doing the hard things even when it's not fun. Then we have this chapter, Me versus Me. What's that about?
I love this chapter. It's about recognizing that we all have limitations. You can't be anything you want, but you can be the best version of yourself. And that's the battle, right?
The battle is against ourselves.
Exactly. It's about those small victories, those daily wins over your own weaknesses.
And it's easy to let our standards slip, right?
Oh, yeah. We get comfortable, we get complacent.
The chapter Remain Vigilant talks about that.
Yeah, it talks about how weakness creeps in slowly through those small compromises we make, those times we give in to the easy way out.
So we have to be vigilant. We have to hold the line.
Absolutely. Those small things, they add up.
So fear is a universal human emotion. How does the book say we should deal with fear?
His advice is simple. Step. Go. Don't overthink it. Don't plan endlessly. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Just take that first step and keep moving.
So whatever you're afraid of, walk towards it.
Exactly. Action is the antidote to fear.
Now, life throws us some curveballs. We all go through dark times.
Yeah. The darkness.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from that.
How do we navigate through those times?
He says, don't let the darkness consume you.
Don't surrender.
Keep fighting. Use your will, your determination to push through. As long as you're fighting, you have a chance. If you surrender, you've already lost.
And it's so easy to feel overwhelmed by life.
Oh, yeah. Life is full of problems.
Big and small.
He says, don't retreat.
Fight harder.
Prioritize your problems and attack them one by one.
Don't get paralyzed by the sheer number of problems.
Right. And see those problems as opportunities to grow. You come out of those challenges a better person.
What about negative people, right?
Oh, the energy vampires.
How do we handle those people who are constantly negative?
Well, he says, ignore and outperform.
Don't engage with their negativity.
Focus on your own work, your own improvement, and let your results speak for themselves.
So basically, be so good they can't ignore you.
Exactly. Your success is the best revenge.
So hold the line seems like a recurring theme throughout the book.
Yeah, it's about constant growth and learning, never giving up, never surrendering ground in this battle for self-improvement.
Never stop fighting for what you want.
Exactly.
So the book gets more practical with the begin chapter. How do we start our day right?
He talks about having a ritual. Get up before dawn.
Before the sun comes up.
Resist the urge to stay in bed. Get up and take action. Don't let your mind talk you out of it.
Don't hit the snooze button.
Exactly.
And that's echoed in engage, right?
Yeah. It's about overcoming our natural tendency towards comfort and ease.
It's about pushing ourselves, even when we don't feel like it.
He compares it to physical training. You have to use your will to crush weakness.
So then we have laughter wins, which, I don't know, it seems a little out of place amongst all this talk about discipline and struggle.
Right. But I think it's about perspective.
It's about choosing joy.
He acknowledges the darkness, the challenges, but he says, choose to live in the light.
Choose to be positive.
Laughter is a powerful tool.
It's like a weapon against negativity. So the book then shifts into more practical areas, starting with physical training, getting after it. What are the main benefits he talks about?
Well, he talks about the physical benefits, of course. Things like improved hormonal balance, stronger cardiovascular system, better insulin sensitivity, stronger immune system.
But he also talks about the mental benefits.
Oh, yeah. The cognitive benefits are huge. Increased blood flow to the brain, new nerve cell growth, improved synaptic plasticity, release of neurotransmitters, and BDNF.
So working out is not just about looking good.
No way. It's about feeling good, thinking clearly, and being your best self.
And then the book revisits stress.
Right. Stress is important.
But this time in the context of physical training.
Yeah. He says a certain amount of stress is actually necessary for improvement, both physically and mentally. He talks about cortisol, that stress hormone,
Cortisol.
and how it can be both good and bad.
Yeah.
It gives you energy and focus,
Yeah.
but too much of it for too long can be harmful. And exercise, as a form of stress, helps your body regulate cortisol better, so you can handle stress in other areas of your life more effectively.
So a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to work out. What does the book say about that?
He addresses the when question directly.
When do I work out?
Yeah, and he says, work out before the sun comes up.
No excuses.
He compares it to stand to in the military.
Yeah.
You get ready before dawn, so you're prepared for whatever the day throws at you,
Be ready.
and that sets the tone for the rest of the day.
And then there's a psychological edge to training early.
Absolutely. You've already accomplished something before most people are even out of bed. You've already won a victory,
It sets you up for success.
and that builds your discipline, your willpower. It makes it more likely that you'll make other good choices throughout the day.
It's like a domino effect. Discipline leads to more discipline. Now, sleep is so important, but it's usually the first thing to go when we get busy.